That night, the arena was packed with 50,000 fans. Everyone had come to see Elvis, but 10-year-old Michael was different. He wanted to feel Elvis. Because for the blind boy, the concert experience was completely different. His eyes couldn't see, but his heart felt every note, every breath, and his love for Elvis was so deep that he wanted to know him through touch. Elvis's response to this request would make that night legendary. For 10-year-old Michael Chen, the world was a symphony of sounds, textures, and emotions rather than colors and shapes. Born completely blind due to a rare genetic condition called Leber congenital amaurosis, Michael had never seen a sunset, never watched a movie, never looked into his parents' faces. But what he lacked in sight, he made up for with an extraordinary sensitivity to sound and an almost supernatural ability to understand the world through his other senses. Michael's love affair with Elvis Presley had begun 3 years earlier when his older sister Jenny was playing "Can't Help Falling in Love" on their family's old record player. The moment Elvis's voice filled the living room, Michael had stopped what he was doing and stood perfectly still, his head tilted in that characteristic way he had when something truly captured his attention. "Who is that singing?" Michael had asked, his voice filled with wonder. "That's Elvis Presley," Jenny had replied. "He's called the King of Rock and Roll." From that moment on, Michael became obsessed with Elvis's music. He would spend hours listening to every album his family could find, memorizing not just the lyrics and melodies, but the subtle inflections in Elvis's voice, the way he breathed between phrases, the emotion that seemed to pour out of every note. For Michael, Elvis wasn't just a singer, he was a storyteller whose voice painted pictures that Michael could see in his mind. Michael's parents, Susan and David Chen, had immigrated to the United States from Taiwan when Michael was just a baby. They had struggled to understand their son's condition at first, worried about his future and how he would navigate a world designed for sighted people. But as they watched Michael develop his incredible musical sensitivity and his joyful approach to life despite his disability, they learned to see his blindness not as a limitation but as a different way of experiencing the world. The Chen family lived modestly in a small apartment near downtown Memphis. David worked as a maintenance supervisor at a local hospital, while Susan cleaned offices at night to supplement their income. Money was always tight, but they had managed to save enough to buy Michael a small radio for his 8th birthday. That radio became his constant companion, introducing him to a wider world of music and helping him discover new Elvis songs he had never heard before. Michael's relationship with music was unlike anything his family had ever witnessed. He could identify songs within the first few notes, distinguish between different recording sessions of the same song, and even detect when something was slightly off-pitch or out of tempo. His teachers at the Tennessee School for the Blind were amazed by his musical abilities and encouraged his parents to consider formal music training. But it wasn't just Michael's musical talent that impressed people. It was his approach to understanding the world around him. When meeting new people, Michael would often ask if he could touch their faces to see them. He had developed an incredible ability to read emotions and personalities through the texture of someone's skin, the shape of their features, and the way they held themselves when he touched them. "I see with my hands," Michael would explain to people who asked about his blindness. "My fingers are my eyes." When Michael learned that Elvis was scheduled to perform in Memphis in March of 1975, he began what his family came to call the campaign. Every day for 2 months, he asked his parents if they could somehow get tickets to the concert. He drew pictures of Elvis using a special stylus that created raised lines he could feel. and he wrote letters in Braille expressing his dream of meeting his musical hero. "I know I can't see Elvis like other people," Michael told his parents one evening as they sat together listening to Love Me Tender on his radio. "But I want to know what he feels like. I want to touch his face so I can see him the way I see everything else." Susan and David were moved by their son's request, but they were also practical. Concert tickets were expensive, and even if they could afford them, the chances of Michael actually meeting Elvis seemed impossible. The king of rock and roll was one of the most protected celebrities in the world, surrounded by security guards and handlers who kept fans at a safe distance. But Michael's persistence eventually wore down their resistance. David picked up extra shifts at the hospital, and Susan took on additional cleaning contracts. Slowly, painfully, they saved enough money to buy 3 tickets to Elvis's concert. Not great seats, but seats nonetheless. As the concert date approached, Michael's excitement became almost palpable. He practiced walking with his white cane for hours, wanting to be able to navigate the concert venue as independently as possible. He memorized the layout of the arena from detailed descriptions his parents provided, and he even practiced how he would ask Elvis if he could touch his face, should the impossible opportunity arise. "What if he says no?" Michael asked his mother the night before the concert. "Then we'll know you were brave enough to ask," Susan replied, though privately she hoped her son wouldn't face that disappointment. The day of the concert arrived with typical Memphis humidity and Michael's boundless enthusiasm. He had chosen his outfit carefully, his best shirt and pants, shoes polished to a shine he couldn't see but knew was there. He carried his white cane with pride rather than shame, and his face glowed with anticipation. The family arrived at the concert venue early, hoping to get settled before the massive crowds arrived. Michael was immediately overwhelmed by the scale of the building, the echoing voices, the size of the space he could sense around him, the electrical energy of thousands of excited fans beginning to gather. As they found their seats in the middle section of the arena, Michael used his cane to carefully explore the area around them. He felt the texture of the seat cushions, tested the stability of the floor, and positioned himself so he would have the best possible acoustic experience when Elvis took the stage. "Can you describe the stage to me?" Michael asked his father as they waited for the show to begin. David did his best to paint a picture with words. The elaborate lighting setup, the instruments waiting to be played, the massive space that would soon be filled with Elvis's presence. But he could see that words weren't enough for Michael. His son needed to experience things directly, and simply describing the visual elements of a concert couldn't capture what made the experience magical. When the lights dimmed and Elvis appeared on stage, the roar from the crowd was unlike anything Michael had ever experienced. The sound hit him like a physical force, and for a moment he was overwhelmed by the sheer volume and intensity of 50,000 people expressing their adoration simultaneously. But then Elvis began to sing, and everything else faded away. Michael sat transfixed as the voice he had loved for 3 years filled the arena with warmth and power. But it wasn't just the voice. Michael could feel the music in his chest, could sense the movement and energy of Elvis's performance, even though he couldn't see it. "He's moving around the stage," Michael whispered to his parents during a brief pause between songs. "I can tell by how his voice changes position." Michael was right. Elvis was renowned for his dynamic stage presence, and even without being able to see the performance, Michael was tracking every movement through subtle changes in acoustics and the reactions of the crowd around him. As the concert progressed, Michael became increasingly captivated, not just by Elvis's music, but by his connection with the audience. He could hear Elvis talking to individual fans, responding to their calls, creating moments of intimacy even in the massive venue. This gave Michael an idea that was both bold and seemingly impossible. During a quiet moment when Elvis was speaking to the audience between songs, Michael stood up. His parents tried to gently pull him back down, but Michael had made up his mind. "Elvis," he called out, his young voice somehow carrying across the vast space. "Elvis, I'm Michael." Amazingly, Elvis heard him. The singer paused his conversation with the audience and looked in Michael's direction, though he couldn't immediately locate the source of the voice in the sea of faces. "Where are you, Michael?" Elvis called back, his voice amplified by the arena's sound system. Michael stood on his chair, waving his white cane in the air. The distinctive sight of the blind child immediately caught Elvis's attention, and a murmur of recognition went through the crowd as people realized what was happening. "I'm here," Michael called out. "Elvis, I can't see you, but I love your music so much. Could I touch your face so I can see what you look like?" The arena fell silent. 50,000 people held their breath as they waited to see how Elvis would respond to this unusual and deeply personal request. Security guards moved closer to the stage, unsure how to handle this unprecedented situation. Elvis stood quietly for a moment, considering the request. He looked at Michael, still standing on his chair with his cane raised, and something in the purity and innocence of the moment touched him deeply. "You want to touch my face so you can see me?" Elvis asked gently, his voice carrying clearly through the sound system. "Yes, sir," Michael replied, his voice trembling with hope and nervousness. "That's how I see people, with my hands." Without hesitation, Elvis made a decision that would shock his security team and create one of the most memorable moments in concert history. "Well then, come on up here, son," Elvis said, gesturing toward the stage. "Let's make that happen." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause as security guards rushed to assist Michael and his parents in making their way to the stage. It was an unprecedented breach of protocol. Fans simply didn't join Elvis on stage during performances, but Elvis waved off his security team's concerns. "Sometimes," Elvis said into the microphone as Michael was being helped toward the stage, "sometimes we need to remember what's really important." When Michael reached the stage, Elvis knelt down to bring himself to the boy's eye level. The arena was completely silent except for the soft sound of Michael's white cane tapping against the stage floor as he oriented himself. "Hi there, Michael," Elvis said softly, speaking directly to the boy rather than to the audience. "I'm going to take your hand and guide it to my face, okay?" Michael nodded, his heart pounding with excitement and disbelief. Elvis gently took Michael's small hand in his much larger one and slowly guided it to his cheek. What happened next was magical. Michael's face lit up with wonder and joy as his fingers explored Elvis's features. The strong jawline, the famous cheekbones, the gentle eyes that Michael couldn't see but could somehow sense through touch. "You have kind eyes," Michael said quietly, his fingers gently tracing the area around Elvis's eyes. "I can feel that you smile a lot." Elvis was deeply moved by the boy's observations. "How can you tell that?" he asked. "Your face has happy lines," Michael explained, his fingers continuing their careful exploration. "People who smile a lot have different lines than people who don't." For several minutes, the massive arena watched in complete silence as this intimate moment unfolded. Michael saw Elvis's face with his hands, and Elvis patiently allowed the boy to satisfy his curiosity about his appearance. "You're taller than I thought," Michael said with a smile, "and your hair is really soft." Elvis laughed, a genuine warm sound that filled the arena. "Well, I'm glad you approve," he said. But Michael wasn't finished. Could I feel your hands too?" he asked. "I want to know what the hands that make such beautiful music feel like." Elvis held out his hands, and Michael carefully examined them. The long fingers, the calluses from guitar playing, the rings that Elvis was famous for wearing. "These hands make magic," Michael said with certainty. "I can feel it." By this time, there wasn't a dry eye in the arena. 50,000 people were witnessing something extraordinary, a moment of pure human connection that transcended the typical celebrity-fan relationship. Elvis was so moved by Michael's innocence and the purity of his appreciation for music that he made another unprecedented decision. "Michael," he said, "I want to sing a song just for you, but I want you to stay up here with me so you can feel the music as well as hear it." Elvis guided Michael to a spot beside him on the stage, then began to sing "Love Me Tender" a cappella without any instrumental accompaniment. But this version was different from any he had ever performed. It was soft, intimate, and filled with genuine emotion, inspired by his connection with Michael. As Elvis sang, Michael stood beside him with tears streaming down his face. He could feel the vibrations of Elvis's voice through the stage floor, could sense the power and gentleness of the performance in a way that no sighted person could fully experience. When the song ended, the applause was thunderous and sustained. But Elvis wasn't finished. "Michael," he said, "I want to give you something." Elvis removed one of his famous rings, a simple silver band with a musical note design, and placed it in Michael's hand. "This ring has been with me for a lot of years," Elvis said. "I want you to have it as a reminder that music doesn't require sight. It requires heart, and you, son, have more heart than anyone I've ever met." Michael was overwhelmed. He clutched the ring to his chest and whispered, "Thank you, Elvis. Thank you for letting me see you." Elvis helped Michael and his family back to their seats, but not before asking Michael one more question. "What do you want to be when you grow up, son?" Without hesitation, Michael replied, "I want to be a musician like you. I want to help people feel things through music." "Then you will," Elvis said with conviction. "I believe in you, Michael." The rest of the concert took on a different energy. Elvis performed with renewed passion, frequently looking over at Michael and dedicating songs to "My Friend Who Sees with His Heart." The audience, having witnessed this extraordinary moment, responded with even greater enthusiasm and emotion. After the concert, the Chen family was invited backstage to meet with Elvis privately. He spent nearly an hour talking with Michael about music, about blindness, about dreams and possibilities. Elvis shared stories about his own childhood, his love for music, and his belief that everyone has something special to contribute to the world. "Your blindness isn't a limitation, Michael," Elvis told him. "It's a different way of experiencing the world, and sometimes that different way can be better than what the rest of us see." Elvis also spoke with Michael's parents, encouraging them to support their son's musical interests and offering to help connect them with music teachers and programs for blind children. The story of Michael and Elvis spread quickly through Memphis and then across the country. Newspapers picked up the story, and it became a symbol of Elvis's character and compassion. But more importantly, it became a story about the power of inclusion, acceptance, and the recognition that everyone deserves to experience joy and connection regardless of their physical limitations. For Michael, the experience was life-changing in ways that extended far beyond the excitement of meeting his idol. Elvis's acceptance and encouragement gave him confidence to pursue his musical dreams aggressively. Within a year, he was taking piano lessons and had begun composing his own songs. Michael's story also had a broader impact on the community. The Tennessee School for the Blind began receiving increased support and donations from people who had heard about Michael's experience. Concert venues started implementing better accessibility measures for blind and disabled patrons. Elvis kept in touch with Michael and his family for several years after their meeting. He sent Christmas cards, called on Michael's birthday, and even arranged for Michael to attend a recording session when he was older. Each contact reinforced Elvis's original message, that Michael's blindness was not a barrier to achieving his dreams. Michael went on to become an accomplished musician and music therapist, specializing in working with children with disabilities. He often told people that his career path was directly inspired by Elvis's kindness and the way the king had made him feel valued and capable during their meeting. The ring Elvis gave to Michael remained one of his most treasured possessions throughout his life. He wore it during every performance, every recording session, and every important moment in his musical career. It served as a constant reminder of the night when one of the world's biggest stars had taken time to truly see a blind child and validate his worth as a human being. In interviews later in life, Michael would often reflect on the broader implications of his encounter with Elvis. He taught me that accessibility isn't just about ramps and braille, Michael would say. It's about human connection and the willingness to meet people where they are rather than expecting them to adapt to where you are. The story also highlighted the importance of sensory inclusion in public events. Michael's experience led to increased awareness about how blind and visually impaired people experience concerts and other live performances, and it inspired venues to develop better programs for making events accessible to people with various disabilities. Elvis's willingness to break protocol and allow Michael on stage also demonstrated the power of spontaneous human kindness. In a world where celebrities are often isolated from their fans by layers of security and management, Elvis's decision to prioritize human connection over safety protocols became a powerful example of authentic leadership and compassion. For the thousands of people who witnessed the moment live, and the millions more who heard about it later, Michael and Elvis's interaction became a touchstone for understanding what inclusion and acceptance really mean. It showed that true accessibility isn't just about physical accommodations. It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every person, regardless of their abilities or limitations. The moment when Michael saw Elvis through touch became legendary, not just among Elvis fans, but among disability rights advocates, music lovers, and anyone who believes in the power of human connection to transcend barriers and create understanding. Years later, when Michael established his own music therapy practice, he named it Touch of Music, in honor of that magical night when Elvis allowed him to see his hero and, in doing so, helped Michael see himself as capable of achieving anything he set his mind to. The legacy of that night continued to inspire long after both Michael and Elvis were gone. The story became a standard part of disability awareness training, a powerful example of how simple acts of inclusion and acceptance can change lives and create ripple effects that extend far beyond the original moment. Michael's encounter with Elvis remains one of the most beautiful examples of how music can unite people across all boundaries, physical, social, and emotional. It demonstrated that true stardom isn't measured by fame or wealth, but by the willingness to recognize the humanity in others and respond with kindness, acceptance, and love. What would you have done in Elvis's position? Share your thoughts about the importance of inclusion and accessibility in the comments below.